Alright, guys. It's Wrestlemania season.
Woo!
And if there's anything that's synonymous with Wrestlemania, it's The Undertaker and his, at one point, undefeated streak.
Or Shawn Michaels.
In our hearts, still undefeated.
Yeah, he's going to be 23-0 when he
Beats Bray Wyatt.
beats Bray Wyatt. There was a sign on Raw.
Yeah. And so, in all seriousness, we've mentioned it plenty of times. We are not thrilled with the fact that Brock Lesnar broke the streak.
We're not really fans of Brock Lesnar anyway.
Wrestlemania. So we do our Streak Week segment once a month where we talk about somebody and why they should have broken this streak. I am Thomas Wolfe.
I'm Travis Colt.
And I'm Kevin Hawk. Thomas Wolfe isn't here, and it is his pick for Streak Week.
Yes.
And so he decided, as a little special treat, that rather than doing 5 reasons why blank should have ended the streak, it's going to be 5 people who should have ended the streak with 1 reason apiece.
Yeah. So normally none of us would know who the other person picked. I do know who Thomas Wolfe has picked. Me and Kevin are still in the dark as far as who each other have picked. So we're going to start with one of Thomas Wolfe's picks. Then we'll go to you, go back to Thomas, go to me, then go back to Thomas for his final one.
Okay.
Sound good? All right.
Pick number 1.
First up on the list for Thomas Wolfe is the Vigilante, Sting.
Yeah, kind of a cool choice because this is going to be Sting's debut year at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, it was talks. When Sting shows up at WWE, the one thing he wants to do is wrestle The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I definitely think that idea might have lost a lot of its luster after Lesnar beat him.
Yeah. At the same time, having the streak not on the line and just having it strictly more so what we have for the build between Triple H and Sting for this year's Mania, it would have been that Thomas Wolfe's main one of his main reasons for picking Sting is they're great mirrors of each other from their particular company. They were the cornerstones of their company, and so to have the biggest icon from WWE taking on the biggest icon from WCW and having them fight at WrestleMania would have been an epic confrontation and is a dream match that a lot of people were hoping for.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Having the streak on the line, though, would definitely add a whole different dynamic to it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because to me, not having the streak on the line just sort of kind of puts it at a, yeah, here's a match that should have happened 10 years ago. Because despite the fact that it is awesome that it would be Sting versus Undertaker at WrestleMania this year, let's face it, both of these guys are past their prime.
Absolutely.
So it's not going to be the Rocket Buster that it would have been, 10 years ago.
If they would have done it like the end of the Invasion storyline. If they would have done it around that time, I mean, both guys still would have been in rare form, and we probably would have had a fucking crazy match between the two of them.
Yeah, so definitely, I like the idea, mainly because it is one of those matches that I've wanted to see for a long time, and it's a match that I was pretty convinced that never even had the shot of happening up until recently.
Yeah.
But at the same time, nowadays, I definitely think Undertaker needs somebody younger to help carry the match a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think, he's still a ring general, but he definitely can't hold his own the way he used to. And he definitely, I hate to say it, but Undertaker does kind of have to have a crutch in matches, which is why, after his 4 years of facing Shawn Michaels and Triple H, his next streak attempt was CM Punk.
Yeah.
You had someone who was at the top of their game, really trying, a fresh new face in the group of people who were trying to break the streak. And Now, I think they were kind of hoping for the same thing with Brock. It just didn't work out at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Brock idea, I think, was way better suited for when Brock was during his initial run in the company.
Yes. Yeah. 13 years ago.
Which, I mean, even if he would have broken the streak then, it wouldn't have been such a big deal because the streak wasn't as nearly as established.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. Yeah, Sting is a great choice.
Absolutely.
Just because of the draw of, you know, that's the Rock versus Hogan, Cena versus Rock, you know, sort of draw.
Yeah.
That icon versus icon, these two people who are, you know, the faces of the company, sort of clashing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my pick
number 2
is a playoff of one of my first Streak Week choices. I picked McFoley.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna narrow it down, and I'm gonna say strictly the character Mankind.
Ooh.
Basically, making it off of the fact that Mankind has the strongest win-loss record over the Undertaker. The most dominant against the Undertaker up until Kane's last run as World Heavyweight Champion when he beat Undertaker at 3 straight pay-per-views.
Oh, right.
No one had really ever been that formidable against the Undertaker in matches like the Buried Alive match and the Broiler Room Brawl. You know, so a lot of history between the two of them.
Absolutely.
You know, it was the Mankind gimmick who was in that Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah.
They had a lot of mind games back and forth. You know, Paul Bearer turned on the Undertaker at the time to join Mankind. Mankind was a great character to build on. You know, so talking about if this match were back in that era, really awesome. Or if we could figure out some way to, like, if we were to get Mick Foley back now, but specifically somehow that he is slid back into the Mankind persona. Either way, I think it makes for a great story.
Yeah, just knowing that, you know, the main thing when going into WrestleMania is everyone wants to have their WrestleMania moment.
Yeah.
And knowing that one of the most iconic moments in WWE history ever is that Hell in a Cell match. In every video package they do, as far as, like, whether it's, you know, hard-hitting bumps or just amazing moments that you had to be there to really understand, that is always there.
Yeah.
And it's not going away anytime soon. So, you know, having Mankind as a potential street breaker would have been a whole different world as far as what these two could have brought to the table.
Yeah, and I definitely think for me, another part of it is to do with Mick Foley getting a real WrestleMania moment.
As opposed to sharing the spotlight with 3 other guys?
Yeah, I mean, Foley, in my opinion, was involved in a lot of things that you could call moments at WrestleMania, but
usually special referee.
Never a strictly Mick Foley moment. You know, like, the first thing I remember is when he got smushed by Big Show.
Yep.
In their match, which isn't a flattering moment. You know, having to share the spotlight with The Rock against Evolution, and they lost.
He was a special referee in Shane versus Vince at 17.
Yeah, you know, being not the highlight of the Fatal 4-Way match at WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah.
Getting speared through a table on fire by Edge.
That was awesome. But that's definitely more of an Edge moment.
Yeah, so, you know, Foley I think still needs to have that defining WrestleMania moment. We know it's probably never going to happen at this point, but, you know, a win over The Undertaker, there is no more a defining WrestleMania moment than beating The Undertaker. No matter who you are. You know.
God damn it, Lesnar.
You win, you get that moment.
Yeah. It doesn't get more iconic than defeating The Undertaker. Especially, I mean, in WWE, period. That's about as iconic as you get. We'll go to pick number 3. Thomas Wolfe going with Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, this is a guy. I mean, for real, it's gonna be like watching the Shawn Taker matches all over again.
Absolutely.
It's that style that is definitely the most opposite of Undertaker's style of opponents that he fights at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think, Big Show, A-Train, Mark Henry, Batista, Triple H, all big guys.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite matches are the Edge, the Randy Orton, the Shawn Michaels, the CM Punks, the smaller guys, the bigger dynamic between the two wrestlers.
The David versus Goliath dynamic. Thomas Wolfe's main thing is Eddie had such a connection with the crowd, and the crowd was super passionate about Eddie Guerrero. Mm-hmm. And like you said, thinking back to Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, the crowd was so invested in this because we loved both guys. We going into 26, we didn't want to see the streak end, but we also didn't want to see Shawn Michaels retire.
Yeah.
And so there was such a dynamic there. If you had someone as passionate about wrestling as Eddie Guerrero going into one of the biggest matches he could possibly have in WWE, facing The Undertaker, this would have been off the charts and very, very much like Shawn and Taker. But different because Eddie is so heavily influenced with Mexican style because he's been learning that since he was 2-3 years old, that you still would have had that very technical to high-flying style, but it would have a different flair, and it would have that Latino heat essence to it, and it would have been really fun to watch.
Yeah. And another thing that I really like about Eddie that you don't see in a lot of the guys like Shawn Michaels, CM Punk, is a very wide dynamic range of character in the ring as well as just your storyline character. Because a lot of times, your character in the ring and your storyline character, one and the same, very, everyone gets very kind of one-dimensional because, you don't have that much versatility going on. Mm-hmm. Bad News Barrett outside the ring is Bad News Barrett inside the ring sort of thing. Yes. Eddie Guerrero has that ability, though, to start, he can be the fun-loving, Eddie Guerrero who's always, dancing around, popping jokes. But in the same match, you can watch him transform into that extremely aggressive, angry Eddie Guerrero. When something doesn't quite go right, when something starts to get on his nerves, he had that switch from being Eddie Guerrero to being intense Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, he was able to have fun in matches, but like you said, if something wasn't going right or if he needed to up his game, he could.
Yeah,
and it was seamless. Eddie Guerrero, I think, is, granted, he passed away far too early for us to ever potentially see this, but, back in 2003, 2004, when he was at the top of his game, that would have been a phenomenal match.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take pick number 4. One of the first picks that I had when doing the 5 reasons why blank should have ended the streak, I wanted to go with someone who was up and coming, and I picked Wade Barrett. I'm not going to pick Wade Barrett for this one because specifically I love what they're doing this year, and I'm going to go with Bray.
Fandango.
Yes, wow, that was wrong. I'm going to go with Bray Wyatt.
Oh.
If we're thinking back to last year, if last year is going to be WrestleMania 30 is going to be where the streak ends, if that is where we have to pick it, why not have someone like Bray Wyatt? The Wyatt family had already made such waves in WWE at this point. They had probably other than Undertaker and Triple H, had one of the most elaborate entrances at the show, why not have that be a streak match? Not only, you've already built this character up, but this is something that Bray Wyatt could have taken for years in his career. The fact that he was the first person to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, it would have been such a huge step for him, and he would have been able to use it not only as a stepping stone, but as kind of a flagship accolade that he had. Brock Lesnar, it gets mentioned all the time, but, it really didn't do anything for Brock Lesnar. We knew Brock Lesnar was strong and indestructible. It just feels like another thing for Brock Lesnar.
You think about Brock Lesnar, you have to think, okay, he was undisputed champion. He was king of the ring. UFC heavyweight champion. It's not like Lesnar needed another thing to plop on top of his already decent list of accomplishments.
Didn't he win? He won the Royal Rumble too, didn't he?
Yeah, Royal Rumble winner. So why not Bray Wyatt, a guy who has yet to win a title? Hasn't won any of those high-profile type matches. Never won a Royal Rumble. Didn't win a Gauntlet or a Survivor Series or anything like that. So hey, it makes perfect sense to give it to a guy who was up and coming. And it's like you were mentioning the entrance that Bray Wyatt had at Mania, going into his match with Cena. I thought the entrance was a waste, because they gave Bray Wyatt a big elaborate entrance into the match where he got his ass handed to him by John Cena.
Yeah. And, I'm sure someone's saying, well, what about Triple H? He had a grand entrance, then he lost to Daniel Bryan. Triple H didn't have to win. Triple H didn't need a win because Triple H is established. A loss to Daniel Bryan, furthering Daniel Bryan's storyline, is not going to hurt Triple H. But a loss within the first, your first WrestleMania, and you lose to John Cena because he's John Cena, it was terrible for Bray Wyatt. Granted, yeah. I love the Bray Wyatt John Cena feud. I thought it was great. It was one of the better storylines of last year. But Bray Wyatt didn't take anything away from that feud because he ultimately lost.
Yeah. The loss at Mania killed a lot of Bray Wyatt's momentum. So if you were to beat The Undertaker, even just winning alone, per se, streak out of the question even, it's a win for Bray Wyatt at the biggest pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Especially coming off the heels of the previous pay-per-views, where you had his match with Daniel Bryan at Royal Rumble, that was awesome, and the Shield versus the Wyatt family six-man tag Elimination Chamber, which was freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
Like match of the year candidate.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Wyatt family, you had an organic storyline dating back to SummerSlam the year before, when Bray Wyatt defeated Kane and the Wyatt family abducted Kane. You could have gotten Kane involved in this. You had Rowan and Harper, who were they themselves, just like Bray Wyatt, were trying to build themselves up. They weren't even involved at WrestleMania.
No, because they lost the matches against Cena.
Yeah.
If they lost, they weren't allowed at ringside.
Yeah. I don't think they were in the Andre Battle Royal, were they? I don't remember them being in that.
I don't remember everyone who was in there. I remember Big Show and Cesaro.
Further proving our point that the Wyatt family were really lost in the fold of WrestleMania last year. Bray Wyatt had a great match with John Cena, but lost. We don't even remember if Harper and Rowan did anything. And if you would have given this to Bray Wyatt specifically...
Yes, they were in the Battle Royal.
Were they?
Yes, because I remember when they got to the face-off between Harper and Cesaro, I started marking out really hard.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt is definitely a person I could see deserving winning, beating the streak. Just basically anybody by default, really, because they're not Brock Lesnar.
Absolutely.
Top pick, number 1, is one of my favorite choices I think we've had so far.
Really?
Yeah.
It is, it's definitely not something you'd expect us to pick if you were an avid watcher of the Wrestling Rundown.
Definitely, and I know it's probably not somebody I would pick, per se.
And Thomas Wolfe did say that it is controversial.
Yeah, but the fact that he picked it, I like being able to ride this wave.
I do too. John Cena. As much as we shit on John Cena, we don't hate the guy. Yeah. We just don't particularly like certain matches that he's in. But when pushed to the point where he has to step up and really be on his A game, John Cena can deliver.
Yeah, is that Thomas's note for Cena?
No, actually, John Cena, as far as Thomas's pick, it would be, he said, it'd be the most organic heel turn you could possibly give him, and he'd be around to utilize it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to think of any person that you could put against The Undertaker at any stage of nowadays, even if it wasn't a WrestleMania match, but have that person not be the heel in the feud, or have that feud turn them into a heel just by the chance that they are going against The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. So the crowd is almost 99.99999% of the time going to side with The Undertaker.
Yes.
You know, to me, the only exception to this rule here was Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
You know, very, very torn, you know, but the crowd is always pro-Undertaker.
And then except for the 1 year that he played heel against Ric Flair.
Yeah. But, you know, it's one of those things. Cena's heel turn is something we've been asking for a long time. Not even necessarily because WWE needs another strong heel, and not because, you know, I don't think John Cena would really necessarily benefit from it, but it's a fresh idea.
It would be fun to see.
It's something we haven't seen since John Cena's White Boy Rapper days. Mm-hmm. You know, and with as good as Cena is with the stick, you know, having him being a heel, I think opens up so many doors to so many humorous heel promos. How, you know, I almost think of it as the idea is like, you know, if Paul Heyman could wrestle,
oh yeah,
it'd be like Cena.
Absolutely.
You know, if Paul Heyman was a giant buff dude who could cut promos like Paul Heyman, he'd be John Cena.
Yeah. It might even, you know, granted, it would more than likely turn him full-fledged heel because no one wants to see John Cena beat the streak. But I think allowing him to be that heel and allowing him to do those kind of promos again, that's what got him popular in the first place.
Yeah.
Was people really started to connect to John Cena because he was funny. He was, you know, he was doing edgy things. He was just being real snarky, and that made him...
He's a naturally charismatic individual.
Yeah, he is great he is great when it comes to promos. And to have him build a streak match against The Undertaker with having one of his first feuds in WWE being against The Undertaker. Mm-hmm. You've got history there. You've got two established guys.
He owns a victory over The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Albeit with interference from the FBI, but, you know.
Back in 2003. You know, it would have, I mean, all in all, this would be not only a great match for Undertaker to, you know, give up the helm, you know, lose the streak, but it would be something new for Cena. It would be it would be something that benefits Cena rather than giving him another title run. You know, giving him something like a Royal Rumble win. I mean, he doesn't have any other accolades like that because he was never in King of the Ring. He's got the Royal Rumble. That's about it. Giving him something different that he could tout. But even if you were to switch him back to face, that he would still, even if he did say, yes, I was the one that beat the Undertaker, but I still respect him. He could play both sides of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, even stepping away from the actual point of it being Cena versus Undertaker, the match, just the logistics of it, the fact that it never happened, sort of surprised me.
Yeah.
Because over the last 10 years, John Cena has been WWE's go-to boy for every big, high-profile sort of event.
Yeah.
And so that kind of surprises me a lot of the times where they throw Cena in at WrestleManias. Because he's like, super, he's going to main event every other pay-per-view of the year. But then, sometimes at WrestleMania, he's kind of somewhere in there. Or, he's sharing the main event in a triple threat match scenario. It's like...
Not since... in 2003, he had his match against Michaels. And then he had a couple of different triple threats and stuff in between there. He had his match with Batista, and then his match with Miz, and then it was 2 years of The Rock, and then he was back to the mid card last year with Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
So he did have that break in between where it was always kind of curious of what John Cena was going to do at Mania.
Yeah, and so I think of not knocking certain people, but looking back at Undertaker's or John Cena's 10 years of being in WrestleMania, I can't really count the first WrestleMania, him versus Big Show, because that was establishing Cena's character.
Mm-hmm.
But other than basically when he won the title from Triple H, or it was JBL.
He beat Big Show, JBL, Triple H, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
And I think he lost... I think 24 was the first year he lost. I think he lost the triple threat against Edge and Big Show. Or did he win that one?
I thought it was the Triple H Orton.
No, that was 25.
Whatever. Order isn't what necessarily matters here, but it's the idea of looking back at some of the years John Cena's had at Mania. There are a lot of years where I would have preferred them popping Undertaker versus John Cena in that place.
Mm-hmm.
Either of the triple threat matches, really. Even though I liked both of those matches, I think I liked the Orton Triple H one better than I liked the Edge Big Show one.
Yeah.
But still, I wouldn't almost necessarily say, throw out the Triple H Orton one because he'd already previously fought Triple H.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania. I definitely prefer it over John Cena versus The Miz, especially because there was interference involved in that match from The Rock.
Yeah.
One of the 2 years that he fought The Rock.
Yeah.
Replace that out.
Maybe keeping it once in a lifetime.
Yeah. Something in that nature, There's times, even last year, Cena Wyatt.
Yeah.
Knock that out, make it Cena Undertaker.
Yeah.
A lot of different years where I said this match would have benefited more than wherever John Cena was on the card.
Yep. But that's 5 picks of people who are much more suited to end the streak than Brock Lesnar. Do you agree with our choices? Do you disagree? Do you have other choices that you would rather see? Post down in the comments who you would like to see end the streak. Maybe we'll use that as... You can't... No. Don't pick Kevin Hawk. Please don't pick... Undertaker would destroy you.
No, don't pick me. I got another...
Oh.
I'm raising my hand so you can...
Oh, Kevin Hawk, what would you like to say?
I'm going to give my occasional sort of honorable mention pick.
Oh.
Fandango.
Oh, God.
You can say the exact same thing as far as the Bray Wyatt idea is concerned. Fandango, another up-and-coming superstar who's yet to have a big defining career moment yet. Also, though, on that same level, Fandango's other WrestleMania match, he beat Chris Jericho. Fandango would be putting up his undefeated streak against the Undertaker's undefeated streak.
His 1-0 against 21-0. He would be the one in 21.
But think about this, too. What would it say for Fandango's career if, I mean, of course there was, I think, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in the middle?
Yeah. Which he did lose.
But Battle Royals don't go in your record, column record.
He's technically undefeated.
Yeah. Chris Jericho and Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That'd be a huge thing. But that's for another day. Like, favorite, subscribe.
Post down in the comments who you'd like to see, who you would have rather ended the streak. Are you one of those douchebags that prefers that Brock Lesnar broke it? Post down in the comments and we'll ridicule you.
Brock Lesnar. Post in the comments.
Come fight us in real life. Don't really, cause
please don't. I don't want to die.
I'm looking forward to watching Roman Reigns beat you.
I'm looking forward to Seth Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank on whoever wins
that too. Make a video?
Yeah. Well, no, we got Twitters, Tumblrs.
All of our information down in the description.
Emails. And we got more stuff coming up. Midweek wrap up.
All kinds of stuff.
SmackDown rundown, Indie news, and Indiana Jones news.